Today I want to give you a key that can forever change the way you deal with men. And I say this from the heart. After this video, you will never interpret his words in the same way again. How many times have you felt that what he says sounds empty, confusing, or even contradictory? How many times have you asked yourself what he really meant, or why he acts one way but says something completely different? I can't even tell you how many women have told me in my practice, "Doctor, I lose myself in his words. I don't know if he loves me, if he's serious, or if I'm just playing a temporary role in his life." And here's the surprising part. It's not your fault. You've been convinced that men are an unsolvable mystery. But that's not true. They're not complicated, just different. And when you recognize this difference, it becomes your greatest strength. The real problem is that men and women speak two different neurological languages, two languages of the brain that rarely overlap. That's what creates misunderstandings, frustrations, painful silences, and relationships that fall apart before they ever have a chance to grow. Today I want to show you how this male language really works, how his brain processes emotions and translates them into words, and above all, how to recognize the hidden signals he sends out without even realizing it. Because while you might be waiting for grand declarations of love like, "I love you, you're the woman of my life," his brain is already shouting love, only in a much subtler, more genuine way that you may not even notice. Let me confess something. Every day I receive messages from intelligent, independent, successful women who still feel small, confused, and insecure inside. And they all say the same thing. "Marian, I don't understand men, Betty. I don't know what they really want from me." And I smile because I know that once they learn how to read these signals, the confusion disappears and peace takes its place. And just imagine, what if, starting today, you could understand the true meaning behind his words? What if you could tell when he's only playing, and when his brain has already chosen you as the woman he wants to build a life with? How different would your whole way of loving feel if you held the secret dictionary of the male language? And let me be clear, this knowledge is not meant to manipulate, to twist yourself, or to control him. No, my dear, it's for you, so that you stop feeling lost, so that you no longer wait for big gestures, but recognize what truly matters, so that you can live your relationships with calm, confidence, and without fear. Because when you learn to read a man, you stop guessing, you stop suffering, and you start inspiring. But before we dive straight into these signals, I have one small request. Subscribe to this channel right now, give this video a like, and share it with a friend who might feel just as lost when it comes to understanding her partner or the man she likes. You can't imagine what a gift that could be for her. Maybe these words are exactly what she needs to free herself from years of insecurity. So, get comfortable, because what you're about to hear will open your eyes. Together, we'll decode these neurological signals that reveal when a man has already placed you in a special place in his mind. And here's the most exciting part. Often he doesn't even know it himself, but his brain has already chosen you. At the end of this video, I will share with you the one sentence, the statement that means his deepest, most instinctive brain has already crossed the point of no return. But to truly grasp that moment, you first need to understand how his inner world works. Join me on this journey. I promise you, it won't just help you read men, it will also help you understand yourself more deeply. You'll realize what you truly deserve, and you'll never again settle for emotional crumbs. Today marks the beginning of a profound shift in the way you look at love. And before we continue, help me with one small gesture. Share this video on WhatsApp with someone going through the same thing as you, and subscribe to the channel. This is how we will build a community of light and well-being together. And I want you to understand something essential, my dear friend. Men do not feel less than we do. They are not cold, not incapable of love, but their brains are wired differently from ours. And it is precisely this difference that creates an invisible wall which, if you don't know how to read it, can quickly become a source of pain and confusion. We women have a 6-lane highway between emotion and language. When we feel something, we can immediately express it in words, gestures, nuances. We are able to describe precisely what we feel, when we feel it, and why we feel it. Men, on the other hand, have more of a narrow country road full of traffic. Their brain processes emotions in a compartment and then has to painstakingly find a way to translate them into words. Have you noticed how often when you ask him, "What's wrong?" he only answers with a nothing that irritates you? It's not always a lie. Often it simply means that he hasn't yet found the words for his feelings. His brain is still searching, still sorting, and as long as he's in that process, he retreats into silence. That silence which hurts you is, in reality, part of his self-protection. And this leads to something fascinating. When he finally does manage to put his feelings into words, those words carry double or even triple the weight. They are not empty talk, but the result of a slow, deep inner process. That's why you must learn to listen to them carefully. I've noticed something decisive in my practice. Sometimes a woman waits for months for him to say, "I love you." Yet during that time he's already shouting his love, not with words, but with small changes in his behavior. While you're searching for the magical declaration, he shows his affection through actions, inclusion, gestures. And here lies the secret. The male brain is far more transparent than we think. You just need to learn to decode its code. Men organize their lives into drawers: work, friends, family, hobbies, relationship. Each drawer is closed, and they rarely overlap. Our female brain works like a web, theirs like a shelf. The incredible thing happens when he begins to mix those drawers, when he unconsciously connects the relationship drawer with family or blends his future plans with your presence. That's one of the clearest signals that he no longer sees you as a temporary person, but as part of his life system. A simple example: you casually tell him something from your day, and weeks later he remembers a tiny detail. "I remember you don't like onions in your salad." For you it's insignificant, for him it's an event. An emotionally attached man stores information about you as if you were his most important project, not to impress, but because his brain is biologically wired to collect everything he considers valuable. So remember this: if you only wait for big words, you will miss the strongest signals. Male love shows itself first in gestures, in small everyday changes, in the way he places you into his mental map. The words come later, but only at the end of a neurological process that takes time. And now an important warning: many women make the mistake of putting pressure on him. "Tell me what you feel, tell me what we are, tell me where this is going." But that pressure activates a defense program in the male brain that blocks his ability to express himself even more. It's like closing a gate just before the water is about to flow out. His silence is not always rejection. Sometimes it's just the time his brain needs to connect emotion and language, and when you understand this, you stop taking his silence personally. You begin to look at it with patience and even tenderness, and paradoxically, this very attitude gives him the safety to open up. Men don't open up under pressure, but in calm, not through demands, but when they feel they won't be judged or ridiculed. So, listen to what he doesn't say. Observe what he does. Read the small changes. There, in the nuances, lies the true language of men. And now that you've understood how his brain works, we can move on to what you've been waiting for most: the concrete signals, the neurological clues that show you when a man no longer sees you as a woman, but as the woman. The first and perhaps most obvious sign: he suddenly uses "we" without even realizing it. "We should go to that restaurant sometime. We could watch that movie. A short trip would do us good." Do you hear it? That "we" that slips out unconsciously. His brain, which normally keeps life compartments strictly separate, has already merged your drawer with his. And this, my love, is no small detail. Men are very cautious with words when it comes to the future, but if that "we" slips out, it means that his subconscious has already decided you are no longer she, you are we. The second sign is just as powerful. He begins to share worries about the future with you. And I don't mean complaints about his boss or traffic. I mean deeper confessions that reveal his vulnerability. Should I change jobs? I'm worried about my father's health. I'm not sure I'm making the right decisions. This is significant because evolutionarily, men were programmed not to share their tribal worries in order to always appear strong. When a man today breaks that pattern and lets you into his real fears, it means he has already welcomed you into his innermost circle of trust. And here's a key point. When he does this, he's not looking for solutions. Women process by talking. Men only talk about what truly matters. And then they seek emotional reassurance. Even if he doesn't say it, what he wants to hear from you is, I understand you. I trust you. I'm with you. That anchors in his mind the idea that you are his safe haven. The third sign is beautiful. He defends you in everyday situations without you expecting it. No big dramas, just small, subtle moments. Someone says something about you, and he immediately reacts. No, that's not who she is. Or, you're wrong, you hardly know her. Here his deepest primal brain, the reptilian brain, kicks in. It activates the protective instinct. You belong to him. Any attack on you is, for him, an attack on himself. And there's another sign you must not overlook. He changes his habits to include you, not because you demand it, not because you put pressure on him, but because he wants to. He postpones a meeting with friends because he prefers to be with you. He adjusts his plans to yours. Pay attention to his routines and schedules before making a decision. This is crucial, my dear friend, because men are deeply territorial with their time. Defending their habits is almost a biological reflex. If he begins to voluntarily give up space and adapt to you, it means that his reward system finds more joy in your presence than in his old patterns. Let me be clear, this doesn't mean he gives up his whole life for you. That would be dependency, obsession, and far from healthy. I'm talking about organic, natural adjustments, where he begins, without pressure, to weave you into his world. This is the difference between a man who simply spends time with you and one whose brain is already building a shared life project. These first signals are like puzzle pieces. Alone, they may seem small. Together, they form a powerful picture, that of a man who no longer sees you as a temporary companion, but as part of his innermost emotional world. And here I want to ask you an uncomfortable but important question. Are you so focused on hearing "I love you" that you overlook the many gestures that, in truth, express exactly the same thing? Just in a different language? Maybe it's not him who has to change, but you who must learn to read his language. If the initial signals are like small lights on the surface, then the next signs I want to reveal to you are real doors to a man's heart. These are behaviors not every woman awakens in him, but only those who truly leave an imprint on his mind and soul. The first of these deeper signals is vulnerability. And I don't mean dramatic confessions or movie-like secrets, but the small details he shares with no one else. Irrational fears, seemingly trivial insecurities, dreams he feels embarrassed about, childhood memories that shaped him. Men are socially trained to appear strong, unshakable, invulnerable. When he opens up to you, he consciously breaks that pattern. That means he sees you as his safe space, the place where he can take off his armor without fear of ridicule or judgment. And here, something fascinating happens on a neurological level. Every time he shows you his vulnerability, his brain releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone. With each intimate revelation, he not only trusts you, but also creates a chemical bond that unconsciously ties him to you. So never take these moments lightly. You are entering sacred ground. The second deep signal: he starts talking to you about the future without asking if you're part of it, as if it were already obvious. Next summer, we could travel. When it's your birthday next year. When we have more time. Notice, he doesn't ask you, he assumes it. On his inner map, you are already firmly embedded in his life path. This is decisive because the male brain doesn't tend to play with unrealistic fantasies. Men are pragmatic, realistic, planners. If he integrates you into his future, even in small things, it's because he sees you as a long-term, emotional investment. And he doesn't do that with just anyone. Another strong sign is when he lets you into his private spaces. Men are territorial, you know that. They have their retreats, office, workshop, hobby rooms, places where they are completely themselves. If he takes you there, it's no small thing. It's a silent message. I want you to see who I really am when I'm not playing a role. That is intimacy in its purest form. Then there is body language, which never lies, when he seeks closeness without it being sexual, when he brushes your arm while talking, takes your hand while walking, or hugs you just because. He is regulating his bond with you. Each of those touches releases oxytocin again. His nervous system craves that closeness, and only you can give it to him. And finally, there is a moment I find especially precious, when he speaks proudly of you in public. Not only to you, but in front of others. Sometimes you hear about it through a third party. He was so excited talking about your project. You could see how proud he was. That is a turning point, because a man can compliment you in private and forget it in public. But when he elevates you in his social world, he is putting his own reputation on the line. He is linking his identity with yours. It is a silent declaration. She belongs with me and I want everyone to know it. These deep signals are the real treasure. Because while the first gestures can sometimes be misinterpreted, these behaviors are unmistakable. A man doesn't share his vulnerability with just any woman. He doesn't make future plans with just anyone. He doesn't show every woman his private retreat. He doesn't seek tender, non-sexual closeness with just anyone. And he most certainly isn't publicly proud of every woman. When you recognize these signals, don't underestimate them. You are standing before a man whose brain has already crossed an emotional threshold. And here's one last question for you. Have you truly appreciated these gestures? Or have you been so fixated on the words that you overlooked the actions that speak louder than any "I love you"? Remember this, men often express through actions what they cannot put into words. And in these deep signals, my dear friend, what he truly feels for you is written in capital letters. We've reached the moment you've been waiting for from the very beginning. The point where everything condenses into one sentence. A statement that doesn't sound like empty poetry or hollow promises, but like a genuine confession of the male soul. And that sentence is, in all its variations, always the same. I have never felt this way before. It may sound like, I didn't know I could feel this way, or this is unlike anything I've ever experienced. Or, I thought I had already felt everything, but with you, it's different. All of these variations mean one thing. He realizes you've expanded his emotional universe. His brain, which believed it already knew its limits, has discovered new territory with you. Let me explain with neuroscience. The male brain tends to be practical, categorical, and linear. Many men, especially as they get older, are convinced they've already experienced the full spectrum of feelings in a relationship. They've loved, suffered, experienced joy, endured loss, and they believe nothing can surprise them anymore. Their mind tells them, I know what being in love feels like. I know what it's like to be in a relationship. But then you appear, and suddenly something stirs deep in his nervous system. Feelings arise that he doesn't recognize, sensations he never expected. His brain enters a state I call a neurological revolution. New connections form, reward circuits that have long been dormant are reactivated. Oxytocin, dopamine, and serotonin mix together, throwing him off balance. It's as if his pleasure system is being completely reprogrammed, and when he finally finds words for it, all he can say is, I have never felt this way before. This sentence is the conscious translation of an unconscious process. It means, my mind and my body are experiencing something I didn't know was possible. And here's an important point. This sentence doesn't come immediately. It can take weeks, months, sometimes years, depending on his past, his capacity to process emotions, his age, his old wounds. But when he says it, there is no turning back. A connection has been formed in his brain that cannot easily be transferred to another woman. You become the emotional standard against which he measures everything else. So understand the weight of this moment. This sentence is not a compliment, not a game, not a tactic. It is a neurological confession. He is telling you that you have changed his way of feeling, that you have left an imprint on the architecture of his brain, that there are now neural pathways carrying your name. And now the crucial part. How do you respond? Many women tend to overreact in the rush of emotion. They cry, they instantly make future plans, they imagine marriage and children. But in that moment, he doesn't need drama, he needs calm. If you overreact, you might frighten him. If you put pressure on him, he may close up. What strengthens him is your serenity. A simple, "Thank you for trusting me with that. It's special for me too," carries more power than any long speech. That answer gives him security, removes his fear of commitment, and confirms that he made the right choice in opening up to you. And you must remember this. These words are the result of a long inner journey. You cannot force them, demand them, or impatiently wait for them. They must come from within him. Organic, real, indelible. When you hear them, "I've never felt this way before," you know that both of you have entered new territory from which there is no return. Because this is more than love, you have transformed him. And the most beautiful part, this transformation will forever carry your imprint, no matter how life changes. But now something equally important, your reaction to all these signals. It's not enough just to recognize them. What matters is how you respond. Your response can deepen the bond or weaken it. First, no drama. When he confides something deep, his brain is showing courage against everything he has been taught. If you exaggerate, cry excessively, or demand immediate definitions, he feels unsafe. His instinct says, "I opened up too much, that was dangerous," and he retreats. Second, thank him for his vulnerability. You don't need long speeches. Simple, sincere sentences work like balm. "Thank you for trusting me. It honors me that you share this with me. I value your openness." These reassure him that opening up to you was the right choice. Third, don't demand immediate definitions. His heart has often made the decision long before he can put it into words. If you pressure him, you block the process. Give him time. Men need to connect what they feel with their conscious awareness first. Fourth, keep your own life. Paradoxically, the more whole and independent you are, the more attractive you are to his brain. What is valuable is never completely available. This doesn't mean playing hard to get, but having a life that is rich and meaningful, independent of him. That draws him in like a magnet. And here's another key. Learn to distinguish real signals from false ones. There are sentences that sound deep, but aren't. "You're amazing. I like you a lot. We have fun." Nice, but interchangeable. They carry no risk. He could say them to anyone. The real sentences are vulnerable and specific. "I've never felt this way before. I didn't know I could feel like this. With you, it's different." They reveal something that overwhelms him, exposes him, even frightens him. And that is precisely what makes them genuine. And then comes the decisive factor, congruence. Don't just pay attention to words, but to actions. A man can tell you he's never felt this way, but if he disappears, doesn't include you, remains unreliable, then his words don't count. The alignment of words and actions is the true language of commitment. So don't just ask yourself, "What did he say?" Ask, "What does he do?" Because his actions reveal most clearly what he really feels. When words and gestures align and stand the test of time, then you can be certain what he is experiencing with you is real. And one last reflection. The true key is not to manipulate these signals or use them as a weapon. The true key is to inspire, to become a safe space where he can feel without fear, where he can be human without losing his masculinity, where he can open up without being judged. If you achieve this, you won't need to chase him, beg for affection, or force anything. His brain, his heart, his instinct will seek you out on their own, naturally, inevitably, magnetically. So the next time you recognize one of these signs, smile. Don't dramatize, don't pressure, don't manipulate. Say thank you, breathe. And remember, your worth does not depend on what he says or does. Your worth is inherent. And it is from this inner security that your inspiration shines the brightest. These signals appear and then fade again because his brain is testing, weighing, exploring the terrain. One day he might speak in we, and the next he withdraws. One day he shows vulnerability, and the next he closes himself off again. Don't take this as contradiction, but as part of his integration process. His mind needs time to sort new feelings, and that takes patience. With time, if the bond is real, the signals become more consistent. They stop being random and begin to follow a stable pattern. He includes you in future plans, speaks well of you in front of others, opens up his private spaces. His brain is telling you, this is no longer a trial, this is a decision. And as more time passes, when the connection matures, commitment shows itself not only in words, but in priorities, in the sacrifices he is willing to make. Now, about cultural differences. A Latin American man is not the same as a European, a Southerner not the same as an Anglo-Saxon. In Latin cultures, men are often more verbally expressive. They say beautiful things more quickly, but that doesn't automatically mean true commitment. What matters is not the intensity of words at the beginning, but the consistency of actions over time. In more reserved cultures, you might not hear grand declarations of love, but if you look closely, you'll notice the same universal signals, including you in the future, sharing vulnerability, changing routines. And now to the topic of age. Young men in their 20s often experience these signals intensely, but also inconsistently. They may tell you, "I've never felt this way," and a month later be distracted by a new experience. Their brain is still in the phase of exploration. In their 30s and 40s, however, the signals carry more weight. They've already lived and learned. When they then say, "I've never felt this way," their actions support those words far more strongly. For men in their 50s and beyond, the signals are usually final. When they appear, they come with clear decisions, introducing you to family, speaking of serious plans, making recognizable sacrifices. They have enough life experience to know exactly what they want, and they no longer waste time with games. But now, my queen, the warning signs. There are behaviors that can deceive you, making you think there is commitment where there is none. First warning sign, inconsistency. When he tells you beautiful things but then disappears without reason. When he seems engaged one day and the next acts as if you don't exist. Words and actions don't match. And you know, congruence is the key. Second warning sign, exclusivity. If he shows signals but still keeps other options open, not closing the door to other women, his gestures lose their value. True commitment shows itself in the clarity with which he arranges his life. Third warning sign, selective vulnerability. Some men use emotional details as a seduction tactic. They share something personal, only to pull back afterward. That's not connection, it's emotional manipulation. Fourth warning sign, his behavior in difficult times. True love doesn't reveal itself on sunny days, but on grey ones. Does he stay when you're struggling? Does he look for ways to support you when you face real problems? Or does he disappear because your emotions overwhelm him? The emotionally immature man loves lightness, but runs from depth. The emotionally available man stays, even when it's hard. So remember this. True signals are consistent, universal, and enduring. False ones are erratic, interchangeable, and collapse in conflict. Learn to tell the difference and never settle for less than you deserve. Because, my dear friend, your worth does not depend on whether he shows these signals or not. Your worth is innate, but recognizing them, interpreting them correctly, and responding with calm gives you the priceless gift of living your relationships with clarity, peace, and without fear. Together we've walked a deep path, through the male brain, its hidden signs, its quiet gestures, all the way to the one sentence that changes everything. And now I want to leave you with something that not only helps you understand him, but transforms your relationship with yourself. because here lies the truth. It's not only about recognizing whether a man is in love, it's about becoming a woman yourself, whole, magnetic, secure in her worth, who doesn't need to chase signals in order to feel loved. Paradoxically, it's exactly then that the signals appear on their own, stronger and clearer. Remember, true love is never begged for. It is inspired. It is never pursued. It attracts. It is never forced. It grows. And the most powerful way to attract it is by cultivating your own fullness. A man bonds deeply when he feels, in front of me stands a woman who doesn't need me to be happy, but who freely chooses me to share her life. That is the difference between dependency and inspiration. So I invite you to a 30-day challenge. Become the woman who naturally awakens such reactions in a man. No games of manipulation, no tricks, but real magnetic energy from within. Read a book that makes you grow. Start a project you've long postponed. Nurture your friendships. Discover a new hobby. Care for your body and your mind. Become the source of your own fulfillment. And practice gratitude. Give thanks for every genuine gesture, every authentic signal, every word of real vulnerability, not out of need, but out of joy in sharing. When a man feels that his openness is met with gratitude instead of demands, he feels free to give more. Do this 30-day test, and you'll see how your energy changes. How men begin to perceive you differently, how signals appear more clearly, how your love life becomes calmer. Not full of fear, but full of serenity. Because the woman who nourishes her own fullness becomes a magnet for deep, honest connections. And never forget, you deserve conscious love. A man who doesn't just admire you, but respects you, who doesn't only desire you, but cherishes you, who doesn't just say, "I've never felt this way before," but proves it day after day through his actions. If he cannot do that, then he simply isn't your man, because you were born to inspire, not to settle. Before I go, I ask you for 3 small things. First, subscribe to this channel right now so you continue receiving messages that strengthen your mind, your heart, and your life. Second, share this video on WhatsApp with the women you love, friends, sisters, colleagues. You never know whose life you may brighten. And third, write me in the comments which signal surprised you the most, which you recognized in your own story, or which you hadn't noticed before. Remember, my queen, the world doesn't need more women chasing validation. It needs more women who know their worth, magnetic, inspiring, complete, and you are one of them. Trust yourself, cultivate your fullness, and let true love come to you as the natural result of your being. With all my affection and the absolute certainty that you deserve an extraordinary love story, I am Marion, and I will always be here to remind you, your power does not lie in trying to guess a man's thoughts, but in recognizing your own worth. And if you haven't yet, subscribe now and take the next step with the videos already waiting for you.